Hi, and welcome to AXSchat. We're delighted today to welcome one of our AXSchat regulars, Rosemary Musachio, who is the Chief Accessibility Officer of Global Communications. So it's great to have you with us, Rose. It really is a great pleasure for me to finally meet you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey? So just explain for the audience, Rose is using InfoVox.
First of all, thanks very much for inviting me as AXSchat guest. It's such an honor to be on with Neil, Antonio, and Deborah, who's my mentor and friend. Okay, so I was born on a military base near Napoli, Italy. It's the same city where Sophia Loren was born, so that's my fame in life. I developed cerebral palsy because the doctor bumped my head during birth. Back then, lawyers didn't have ads about suing doctors and hospitals about birth defects. Anyway, Dad retired from the Air Force and we moved to East Cleveland, Ohio. I pursued my entire education in Greater Cleveland, from special education grade and junior high school, then mainstreamed to a regular high school to graduating magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts degree from Cleveland State University. I inherited my writing talent from my dad, who wrote for several local newspapers. I wrote a monthly column in Sun newspapers for 10 years. Then I entered the technology accessibility field when I saw an ad for TEC Access, where I became an accessibility analyst, training manager, among other positions. Then I went to 2 other companies where I also did accessibility testing. Now I'm at Global Communications as the Chief Accessibility Officer. I feel that Global actually cares about helping persons with disabilities, not just making the technology accessible. And no, Deborah didn't pay me extra to say this. The things I love most are having a very stubborn Italian mom who adores me, my friends who keep my spirit flying so high, and my independence.
I guess I will have to give her a bonus for saying that, though, Neil. So
Definitely have to buy her a drink.
That's right. That's right. And she is a party girl, so she loves to travel. So yeah. So, all right, Rosemary, how has your cerebral palsy presented you with barriers, but also how have you overcome many of those barriers that have been presented to you during your life?
I could write a book on how my CP has presented barriers. It has tried to prevent me from living my life how I have wanted to. 80% of the time it doesn't do that. The CP could have stopped me from having an education. Instead, I typed with a head pointer to complete my work. I used the communication board to participate in class. My dad made sure I was treated fairly and that the state provided me with funding and transportation to continue with my education. The CP could have stopped me from being employed. Instead, I actively searched for jobs through local disability job services and, later, by searching on the internet. Once I found jobs, I used my head pointer and an electric typewriter or a computer. The CP could have prevented me from enjoying life. I said to hunted and traveled, hang glided, rode horses, skied, and rode a motorbike. A Chief Accessibility Officer means managing internal and external accessibility
No, I know that Antonio has that question that you just started, so.
Jumping the gun there a bit.
I do. So, Rose, first of all, thank you so much for being with us today. So, and then I will jump to the question that we were already on. But so, no, we have Deborah here. We have Neil as well. So, Rose, last year, Rule Global Communications made you Chief Accessibility Officer. What does that mean to you?
projects. I ensure that accessibility best practices are followed within the company and help clients meet their accessibility needs. including website and product accessibility. I also consult on accessibility and inclusion issues that clients face from the employee to the customer level. For instance, if a client comes to us asking to help them develop accessibility policies for their customers, we would suggest techniques to make their interpersonal communication with employees and customers with disabilities more accessible, not just their technology. I'm in this field because I can do it, first of all. And testing sites and software applications allows me to make businesses realize how important making their products accessible to consumers with disabilities. Even more important to me is helping them understand that they should treat us just like their other clients and customers. We have over $2 billion in spending power. Companies can ignore us. Otherwise, they lose profit and damage their reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. So great to hear how you're improving everything within Rue Global, and we know that it's a path that we all have to walk to improve our products and services, and that it is a sometimes thankless one, because when you're making things, sometimes things go wrong, and the audience out there can pounce, as we know. So a few months ago, you earned your Certified Professional Accessibility Core Competencies from the IAAP. How do you intend to use that? What do you intend to do with it?
First of all, I'll frame the certificate that I received a few weeks ago. Seriously, I hope people, for example business executives, who see the CPSCC title after my name realize that I truly can help them with their accessibility needs. If I experience accessibility issues with the company, they'd pay me more attention because of that title behind my name. They'd know I have the knowledge and expertise about accessibility and persons with disabilities. I'm already getting requests on LinkedIn seeking advice on accessibility or wanting input on a paper they're writing. What I really wish is that teachers and medical professionals would ask me how to accommodate patients or students with disabilities, such as communication and learning techniques. That's what having a CPSC means also. It isn't just about IT accessibility. It's about teaching society what we need to learn better, to work better, to live better.
Absolutely.
So, what is a challenging experience you have had with a brand company, and how did you handle it?
I have so many challenging experiences with brand companies. The most recent experience was when I tried to register my bank account online, but I kept getting server errors. The bank offered online chat, but it was unavailable since it was the weekend. So I asked my caregiver to call the bank's 24-hour helpline. My caregiver explained my disability and the reason that we were calling. I even uttered vocal sounds so the representative would know I was there. Yet, she said I had to verbalize the information myself. My caregiver, who is trying to be as nice as possible while whispering not so nice names for her, said I could use a synthesizer to communicate the information. The rep insisted I'd have to come to the bank to get my problem resolved. Writing to the bank to recount the incident is on my to-do list. After over 30 years of patronage with this bank, I'd expect it has a notation or something that I can't speak due to cerebral palsy.
Wow. So that really sucks, Rosemary, and I know how important access to banking is. So it's really bad that you had that experience. I think it's Deborah's back, and I think it's your up next with the question. Deborah, can you hear us okay?
Yes, it takes a lot of resilience to handle situations that and that those experience with companies who are failing into that type of services. So, Deborah, are you are you able to hear us?
Yes, and I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. My Wi-Fi kicked me off. But Rosemary, how can technology help persons with disabilities be employed and stay employed?
That's like asking, how does the Bible help the Pope? If it weren't for technology, many of us couldn't work, shop, bank, do pretty much of anything. If we didn't have computers or mobile devices, we would be vegetables. A few months ago, I wrote a blog about virtual reality and how it can help persons with disabilities. For example, virtual reality can't train someone with a cognitive disability to work on an assembly line. By doing this, potential issues can be resolved before the person begins working. Of course, 3D printing has provided less expensive prosthetics for amputees so they can work at whatever job they want. Within several years, brainwave technology probably will be perfected. Then the possibilities will be endless. Ethical issues also will arise, but that's another show.
Absolutely.
You know what, Rosemary? Yeah, I'm sorry, Neil.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I saw this really cool TED Talk a few months ago, and I forget, it was from a scientist at NASA, and he had an AI working in the background, and he had another scientist joining him from and they had pre-recorded it and everything, but it was such a fascinating demonstration, and all I could think was you, Rosemary. You are with so much to offer and so much to say. I thought, wow, it would be so cool to see Rosemary on a stage and see you using some of this, AI and some of this really cool technology that we're creating. You could have an image of yourself standing up and talking to the audience in your wheelchair. I mean, the possibilities are just, with brainwave, what else could we do? Yeah, I get really excited about the opportunities. So, and Neil, I think you wanted to make a comment too. So let me turn it over to you.
Absolutely. I was enjoying the humor about the Pope and the Bible. But in all seriousness, Rose, as a woman with a disability, what is the stigma that society places on your disability, and how have you dealt with that stigma that society has placed on you?
The stigma of being a woman with a disability is that we aren't seen as sexual beings. After all, who would desire a woman in a wheelchair or one who can use their hands or who has a speech defect? Because of this close-mindedness, not only may many of us be without romantic partners, but we also aren't getting proper medical care. In your recent podcast, Deborah, you talked about how a gynecologist wanted to do a procedure on your daughter Sarah, who has Down syndrome, so she wouldn't have kids. I also had an experience with a GYN who refused to give me a routine exam because my CP would make it difficult. Why would we need feminine healthcare? Society doesn't consider us as desirable, capable of giving and expressing love. Slowly, this is changing. Models with disabilities have started to appear. A few weeks ago, Neil tweeted about a beautiful model who's paraplegic in the Czech Republic, I believe. More online groups about disability and socializing have been created. Regarding our gaining better and more dignified medical care, the U.S. Access Board published standards for medical diagnostic equipment this past January. Among the equipment that is required to be accessible are exam tables and mammography machines. By making clinical and hospital environments accessible, the attitudes of doctors and nurses also will become accessible.
A quick comment, and also remember Carolyn, it's Carolyn last name, with Hospital Glam. we had on her.
Oh, Karen. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Karen.
Riggs, I believe.
Gary. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And she just really wanted to prove that just because she has a disability, she can still, she's still a human being. Because she has a terminal illness doesn't mean that she doesn't, have some of the same desires as everybody else. So she was another really, really interesting guest that we had on this topic.
Absolutely.
We are having such an amazing conversation and facing so much challenges with technology, and we're all in three different locations, and we are using a mix of technologies to make this a reality and make this happen. And if we go back, let's say 5 years ago, it would be almost impossible to do in the ways that we are doing today. So it's very interesting that that this is happening. Unfortunately, developments on artificial intelligence will move faster over the next couple of years. That would allow tools to synchronize in a different way and make them useful for people who need it, not just for people to play and be around with it. So we look forward to that technology to come to market. So to complete our conversation today, my question is, what advice can you give to other persons with disabilities who are having difficulties overcoming barriers?
Speak up and express their needs. I've struggled to learn to do that. I've always felt as if I told people what I needed, people would get mad. But events in the last year have forced me to do this. With my mother being in the hospital for hip replacement surgery, I have had personal care assistance. Although I'm very blessed to have caring caregivers, sometimes they can't read my mind, or sometimes the healthcare agency sends an inexperienced provider. Other persons with disabilities have experienced the same situation. We need to tell other people what makes us comfortable, happy, rested, and so on. Another recommendation is don't let anyone or anything stand in your way of reaching your goal or realizing your dreams. Take advantage of available resources, accept support from family and friends, and just follow your heart.
And Rosemary is a perfect example of somebody that does not take no for an answer. She might not speak in a traditional way, but she's never let anybody get in her way. And some of the things that Rosemary is an avid blogger. So you can check out her blogs, on ruglobal.com and a lot of other places on IAAP. But I always am learning through Rosemary's experiences. And I think that, Rosemary has been part of our AXSchat community from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
So, great value. Yeah. We're really blessed by her knowledge. But she communicates differently. I know you come from assistive technology, Neil. You have a lot of experience with that. So it's very exciting to see, like Antonio was saying, how all this technology is melded together so that we can have a conversation like this. But, Neil.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've come from an assistive tech background rather than a web accessibility background. So yeah, I'm all for finding new solutions rather than finding rigid ones. So I think that there's a lot to be excited about at the moment, and in fact we're working on some projects which involve using brainwaves. So Rose is right. The technology is on the cusp of being useful to us. So these are exciting times.
I agree. Well, Rosemary, thank you for being on the program today. You are a very important part of our community, and we're really blessed to have you on the program today. And very, very blessed to have you as part of Root Global. Go ahead, Antonio.
And we know that you have a cat. You just passed behind And so he had his 5 seconds of fame on the internet.
He photobombed you, Rose. He photobombed.
So we look forward to see you tomorrow on AXSchat Twitter chat, as active as ever, and we know that you are going to enjoy it, and we hope to see you with all your energy tomorrow with us on the Twitter chat.
And thank you so much, Rosemary. It's been a pleasure to finally meet you.
And Rosemary, it looks like you're typing with your head pointer, so we're going to give you just a second. So in case if you want to make some last, she did say before we started, don't change the questions, Deborah. She is a spicy Italian. And she didn't mention it, but she does also have a love in her life that she's known for a really long time. Oh. She's like, Deborah, stop.
TMI, Deborah. TMI.
Rosemary just proves what we're all capable of, so it's very exciting. So. I'll say this too while Rosemary's finishing. And we had a client, it was a very, very large technology company, and the technical team got familiar with Rosemary pretty quick because she was doing a lot of the technical accessibility reports. And so I remember one time we had a call, and what we do is we have Skype up, and they're asking the questions, and then Rosemary is answering the questions like she's doing now. And the customers loved working with Rosemary. They loved working with her and seeing her brain, really teach us all. It was always very, very interesting for the customers. And I think any company that doesn't employ people with disabilities are missing out on wonderful, wonderful, talented people like Rosemary. And that's what AXSchat's all about. Rosemary.
I think this is going to be a good one.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm very proud to be a part of your team.
We're very proud to have you as part of the team, the AXSchat community and Rue Global, and IAAP, and the accessibility team. So thank you for everything you're doing, Rosemary. You're breaking all the molds. We appreciate it.
Thank you.